So if you've watched, I don't know, a couple of my videos, you've probably heard me talk about Backline. Backline is a mental health nonprofit that I help out that focuses on mental health resources and services for folks in the music industry. So that could be artist, manager, people on the road, stage folks, anybody who needs it. And it's I will put a link to the to our website, which has all the services listed out. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. Put something in the comments, and I will follow up with you. But what I'm going to do, as I just quickly run through my Record Store Day Black Friday experience, is right now I checked right before I hopped on here, and I'm at 2150 subs. So let's say any sub that we that I add above 2150 through the end of the year, I will double the amount that I donate to Backline. So what I mean is if we're 2150 and we end up at 2200, that's 50 new subs, I will donate $100. And we'll cap it, let's say, we'll cap it at 25. There's no way I'm gonna get to 2,500 subs. But if I do, instead of paying out what there would be $700, I will pay out, let's say, $2,000. How does that sound? Just coming up with random numbers, but I like to do some donations to causes that mean a lot to me near the end of the year, and that's what I'll do for Backline. So again, double every sub up until 2,500, and then 350 times 2 would be 700 if we get to or 698, I guess, if we get to $24.99. 2,500, I will make a donation of $2,000 to Backline. That took a long time to explain. I probably should have prepped for it, but I thought about it literally right as I was doing this, about to do this video. So on to Record Store Day. This is probably one of the Record Store Days that I've been looking most forward to in the last few years. There's a lot of stuff on here that I was really excited about. It ended up being an interesting day. The record store near me, you have to send them an email when they make the announcement. They make an announcement that the list is, or the line is starting. This is like a week ago or so. I always reply late. I replied late, and I got, the store opens at 10, and I got the 11:15 slot. So I got there a little bit before 11, and let's just say there ended up being some confusion. And it just got, they didn't think that you have to reply to the email, and they didn't have me on a list, but they had me on this separate list, and it was like, they're like, we're gonna have to put you at the end of the line, and it just wasn't enjoyable, so I just left. And I got in my car, and I was like, you know what? I've been doing these weekend drives that are very therapeutic. Try to go to the beaches, or, but you know, the redwoods of California really do wonders on a positive, in a positive way for my mental health. Just the smells and getting near the water is just very, very therapeutic for me. So I was like, I got the afternoon off. Let's drive to Santa Cruz. So I drove to Santa Cruz, went to a record store there, and they had, I thought they were going to be out of everything. Out of my list, they had everything except for the Amy Mann 7 inches. Everything else. You should have seen me in the store. I was beaming. The guy behind, because they don't, at this store, they don't put the records out. They keep them behind the counter, and you basically just read off what you want. And I was just stunned that all of this stuff was still there. So I ended up having a great record store day. And here is what I got. This was really the only must. Which is how we're going to do here. There, the Bottle Rockets. Their first record. I've spoken about. I've shared the story of Lane and I going to a St. Louis record store, hearing this record, and then he picked up the CD, the only one they had. That was, I don't know, when did this come out? 93? Yeah, 93. So that was like 96, I think, or 7 or 8. Lane and I were, or maybe even earlier, 95. Because he absolutely loved the song Kerosene, which I still love, and I'm going to play this today. I can't wait to hear it. The Bottle Rockets, if you're not familiar, was Brian Henneman, who was on the first Wilco record, AM. He was the guitarist, and I think he left to focus on the Bottle Rockets. They have a bunch of really strong records. This one, 24 Hours a Day, which was their major label debut on Atlantic, I think, is tremendous. That came out on vinyl recently. But I forgot. It says here, Jay Farrar and Jeff Tweedy appear courtesy of Sire Records. That's obviously in reference to when they were Uncle Tupelo. And just the thank yous, management, Bob Andrews at Undertow Music. I think he co-managed with Tony Margarita, and then they split up. Thanks to Eric Amble. Eric Amble's a friend of mine. I mean, I can, right? Roscoe, if you're watching this, like, I have a little story. Eric Amble, who owned, we're still talking about this record. Eric Amble, who owned the Lakeside Lounge on Avenue B in New York City, which was my favorite bar. It still remains probably my favorite bar ever. I think it closed about 10 years ago. But when I was in New York, we used to go there all the time. I saw so many bands there. It was a tiny room. Incredible jukebox. And I got to know Eric Amble, who I believe was the co-owner. I think it was him and I can't remember the other gentleman's name. And Eric Amble, he was in Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, he was in Steve Earle and the Dukes. He's produced some of my favorite records, Blue Mountain, Dog Days. I think he produced the Bottle Rockets 24 Hours a Day. He just did a lot of very kind stuff for me. There was one point he asked me to be the sound man at the Lakeside. And I told him I had no experience doing that because I wanted to work. I was working in music, but like not the part of music that I wanted to work. I was in like music publishing at the time. And I remember I was like, I don't know how to be a sound man. He's like, we'll teach you. It'll be fine. And I turned it down. I don't know why. I sort of, in retrospect, wish I had taken that on. I would have met, I don't know. The Lakeside was a very communal place. I would walk in and I would just know people there. The bartenders, Roscoe. His name was Eric Roscoe Amble. His name is Eric Roscoe Amble. He just did a phenomenal YouTube video with Otis Gibbs. One of the best musician interviews I've ever seen. So a lot of you probably know who Otis Gibbs is. He talks a lot about Townes Van Zandt and Steve Earle and Guy Clark and all those folks. There's a recent one with Eric Roscoe Amble where Roscoe talks about Steve Earle, Tom Petty, talks about the Lakeside. I mean, it was like perfect for me and my friends in New York, but I think you'll like it. I'll put a link to that as well. So the point was, one day, Eric and I used to talk over AOL Instant Messenger, and he did 2 really kind things for me, which I thanked him about, but why not do it here? One day he said, get to the Lakeside. He sent me was it AOL IM? Yeah. He sent me a note during the day, and it just said, get to the Lakeside by 5 p.m. And I asked why, and he didn't respond. He was just saying, it's up to you. So I went, and I called a bunch of my friends, and I said, we got to go to the Lakeside. I don't know what's going on, but something's going on. And it was Steve Earle, and I have photos from that night. I used to carry a camera with me everywhere, small disposable one. So I'd go to shows, and back then you had to sneak cameras in, so I'd sneak it in my jacket. But at the Lakeside, I don't think Roscoe cared about taking photos. And then the second time, he asked me once if I wanted to go to the recording studio and listen to the Bottle Rockets working on their latest record. which it was after 24 Hours a Day. And they were recording a song called Nancy Sinatra. I remember I just sat there and watched them, and I have chills thinking about it. Like, what a treat and what a wonderful gift he gave me. Again, I'm still friends with Eric. I hope I see him on one of my return trips to New York soon, or if he's ever out here in the Bay Area. I remember I went to his house once and saw like his studio in his house, and it was just, he was playing me some Bloodshot Records songs. It was just incredible. And he's just a sweet, sweet man. So to Eric Roscoe Amble, thank you so much. I will be thinking of you when I play this record. Next is The Flaming Lips. This is live 2002 at the Paradise in Boston. If I had gone to the college I went to a few years later in Boston, I would have been at this show. I went to the Paradise many, many times. So Gillian Welch, Sunvolt, Wilco, so many. I didn't think there was a chance they were going to have this, and they did. This is the Amoeba Records, Graham Parsons and the Fallen Angels, the last roundup. I think this is one of his last shows, live at the Bijou Cafe in Philly, March 16th, 1973. Honestly thought there was no way they were going to have it, and they did. I didn't think they were going to have this either. The Faces had me a real good time at the BBC, in session and in concert in 1971 and 1973. Pumped to throw that on. Didn't think they were going to have this. JT, Justin Townes Earl, Yuma. 6 songs. I love Justin Townes Earl. A couple times I thought about getting a JTE and maybe a TVZ for Townes Van Zandt tattoo. I don't have any tattoos. I've never really been a tattoo guy. And somebody, my good friend, oh, you guys know, the archivist told me, she said, well, you should wait a year when you think about getting a tattoo because your opinion may change. It changed about a few days after thinking of getting a tattoo. Not getting that, but maybe. I'm doing a lot of other midlife crisis stuff. And finally, Grateful Dead. Not finally, there's one more after this. I treasure these. I have to properly organize them. This is March 2nd, 1969, Fillmore West. These are just so gorgeous. Rhino Records, just keep doing what you're doing. As long as I can afford these, I will keep buying them. And finally, I thought there was, maybe they made a ton of these. I don't know. I thought it was going to sell out fast. This 7-inch box set of De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising, features the hits, skits, and rarities, including Buddy on 12-inch, 7-inch splatter with slip mat and pinup. I mean, this is just such a great, great record. I think I saw them perform when I was working at MTV. We used to see a lot of performances, and that was sort of a foggy time for me. A lot of partying. But I think De La Soul, they were interviewed, I think, around the same time that Beck was interviewed. And you can see me with Beck right there. This was one right after, was it Midnight Vultures? Yeah, it was Midnight Vultures. My buddy Dan is in the picture. Met Beck. I remember the one, Kurt Loder interviewed him, and he kept asking him to name like his favorite records, and he wouldn't. But he said, I'll name you a favorite movie. And I may have shared this before. And it was a movie, I think it's a Dutch movie, called The Celebration, which I then, next day, went down to, I think, Kim's Video on St. Mark's and bought The Celebration on DVD, and it is tremendous. It's dark, but if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. About a family. I need to watch it again. I know I watched it twice, and thank you to Beck for the recommendation. It was a very powerful movie from what I recall, but I haven't seen it in, I don't know, 25 years. So that's it. That was my record store day. Again, if you want a sub, that is you giving $2 to Backline and potentially more if we can really get the numbers up. Thank you to the folks at Record Store Day for another wonderful day, and to the folks at Streetlight Music in Santa Cruz. You guys were great. You saw the joy in my eyes when all these records were still available, and it made my day. So I got lunch down in Santa Cruz, got a coffee, walked around. I like Santa Cruz. Maybe I'll move there. All right. I hope you all have a nice long weekend. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. And I'm going to be doing another video potentially tomorrow. I then leave for a business trip, but I have one, locked in up here that I may even do later today. But knowing me, it'll probably be in 2 weeks. Take care, everyone.